Well, there's a lot going on in the readings today. And in the first reading, which is St. Paul's first letter to the Corinthians, there's a couple of zingers here. And I'm going to mention three. They're really quite well known. St. Paul says, "Woe to me if I do not preach the gospel." I'm sure you've heard that before. Woe to me if I do not preach the gospel. The second one is, "I've become all things to all people to save at least some." And the third zinger is, "But only one wins the prize." These are often commented on. And when you hear St. Paul say this, or you read it, you say he was passionate, he was determined, he was convicted, he was a man of action, and he had a big impact on people. The first one, "Woe to me if I do not preach the gospel." I remember St. John Paul II, St. John Paul the Great, repeating these words because there were people who didn't want to preach the gospel. The communists in the Soviet Union, they were afraid of him because he was declaring the truth, that everyone should have freedom. And the communists didn't like that because they wanted to control Poland. And so they had to try to neutralize him one way or another. Later, other people didn't like what he said because he spoke about moral truths, and that made people uncomfortable. And he wasn't trying to be impolite. He just said, "Woe to me if I don't preach the gospel. I have to preach the gospel." The second one, "I've become all things to all people to save at least some." Does that mean St. Paul was weak of character, a compromiser, a pleaser of people? Or does it mean that he knew how to sacrifice himself so he could put others first to win their heart and confidence and bring Jesus to them? I think it was that. And the third one, "But only one wins the prize. So run the race so as to win it." What's the prize? Heaven is the prize. If we win heaven, we've won everything. If we don't win heaven, we've lost everything. So in the spiritual life, it does take effort. Now, moving to the gospel, there's a lot going on here, too. Jesus said, "Can a blind person guide a blind person?" When I was at Northridge Prep, we would try to reenact gospel scenes for the 8th graders. And they said, "Okay, who wants to be the blind person?" They all raised their hand. Or, "Who wants to be the other blind person?" They all raised their hand. And they're bumping over the walls and falling over the desks, and they're reenacting that. You just see the sheer lunacy of a blind person leading a blind person. Maybe somebody's got a brand new machine, doesn't know how to use it. Another guy wants to use it, doesn't know how to use it. I said, "Let me show you." "What do you mean, let me show you?" "You don't know how to use it." So what does this mean? Can a blind person lead a blind person? Jesus is pointing out that we need knowledge because you cannot love what you do not know. And I agree with an insight of St. Josemaria years ago that the biggest challenge we face in the church today is people just don't know about the faith. I think it's the number one testimony of Relevant Radio. People say, "I've never learned so much. I've been a Catholic all my life, and I never knew." Well, you never knew either because no one told you or you weren't listening. But now we will tell you, and we know you're listening, especially if you're stuck in traffic jams in big cities, right? And so they say, "I never knew that." That's really helpful. So that's one of the biggest challenges we face in the church today. It's called lack of knowledge. We used to use another word, but now it's people find it insulting. The word is ignorance. If you call someone ignorant, it's like that's the worst thing you can say. But it's a technical term. It's like you don't know. Doesn't mean you're bad. You just don't know. So that's the mission of Relevant Radio, to bring Christ to the world through the media. We have to teach people. I remember being at a men's conference some years ago, and I said, "Gentlemen, I have a crisp $100 bill here. Any one of you can come up here and recite the 10 Commandments in order. This $100 bill is yours." Pandemonium almost broke out. No guy could do it. But there's all these kids up in the stands raising their hands. They said, "No, no, no. You're probably homeschoolers. You know that really easy, right?" I'm talking to guys who are over 30 years old who weren't homeschooled, right? If you don't even know the 10 Commandments, what do you know? Right? Oh, my goodness. And I've told you the things I've discovered along the way that I didn't know as a kid. So that's really the mission of Relevant Radio. Teach people, and then you help them. I think the other big challenge we face today is what Benedict XVI called moral relativism. Do you know what that is? It means there's no objective truth. You've got your truth, and I've got my truth. Okay, but there are some things that are objectively true. One objectively true moral statement is it's never right to take the life of an innocent human being, no matter what the circumstances are. And that gives you a place to stand when you have that solid principle. Some things are always wrong, no matter what your intention is. You just can't do it. And that can frustrate people. And say, well, it's my decision. Well, you make yourself your own God. So we have this motto here that I like to use. Learn the faith. If you learn the faith, you'll live the faith. If you live the faith, you'll love the faith. If you love the faith, you will not leave the faith. And that's what we do to address our Lord's question, can a blind person guide a blind person? And the answer is no. So we are trying to give people sight so they know what Jesus teaches.